Welcome to the Private Practice Survival Guide podcast with your host, Brandon Seigel. I'm a published author, speaker, entrepreneur, and private practice strategist dedicated to transforming the way that healthcare functions. This podcast is all about empowering you to create the change you want to see. Let's dive in. Welcome back to the Private Practice Survival Guide podcast. Thank you for tuning in. In today's episode, we're talking about the DNA of a private practice leader. And when I think about DNA, obviously we're trying to think about what are the characteristics, how are private practice leaders built, etc. And I think so much of this is going to be dictated based on what you need for your private practice. But one of the purposes of this episode is to start to compartmentalize what it is we look for, what are those ingredients, etc. And I think one of the mistakes that we often make with private practice leaders is we identify people that A, have clinical skill sets, B, have strong empathy, and C, they care what people think. And I'm not saying that those three attributes aren't important. I think they are. But I think just because someone has those three attributes doesn't mean they're a right fit to be your private practice leader. We need more. And I think sometimes we get stuck in what are the barriers to leadership? And one of the barriers to leadership is trying to please versus to lead, trying to accommodate versus to empower. How do we create structure in our private practice leadership approach that allows us to unlock a gear in which someone wants to do what they normally wouldn't want to do because you're part of it? And I think it's really important that attribute of why is someone going to go out of their way to do something that clearly is uncomfortable just because you told them to do it? And I think whenever we look at leaders, like really great leaders, it comes from, in my opinion, someone that knows how to acknowledge, how to indicate opportunity, and to empower improvement from a performance standard that aligns with a desire to be great. And I want to be clear. In order for a leader to be great, you must have great people to follow. And I'll take the sports reference just so we can think with this. When we think of great football players, the best championships are won with leadership. Now, it doesn't mean you have the best players on the field or on the court. And we can see that sometimes we have too many superstars and we can't do it. But then we take someone like a Tom Brady. Well, Tom Brady was able to bring about people that desired to be great. That was the first thing. Everyone on the Patriots roster desired to be great. And he was able to elevate the performance of each one. And I bring this up because a lot of the times we don't recognize that people don't want to put in the work to be great. And the one thing I've learned when I'm studying athletes, they recognize greatness comes from work, not through birthright, not through natural DNA. Just because you're an incredible therapist does not mean you're an incredible leader. Just because you are the most knowledgeable doctor in the room does not mean you can lead others. And so as we break down the DNA of this private practice leader, I need you to recognize that leadership is not just the byproduct of the leader, but the group that you surround the leader with, the people who desire to be led. And we look at this even with ego. We look at this when we're looking at, there's so many different ways that we could attribute leadership, but then who desires to be led? And I think that understanding the intention, the investment, the motivation of everyone in your practice is a starting point. But when I'm looking at the essential traits, the instincts, and the learned behaviors of our leaders, this is what I tend to focus on. So the first is I need a vision driven strategist. And I want to be clear, vision driven strategist, why? Well, first and foremost, from a vision driven strategist, let's use that analogy. We're going to go away on spring break. And if my wife comes to me and says, Brandon, we are going away on spring break and we're going to take our kids, we're going to hop in the car, and we're just going to see where the world takes us. That vision doesn't sound good to me. That does not sound enjoyable. All I see is pit stops, upsets, and two kids fighting. But if she said, Brandon, I've got this vision for spring break, and I say, okay, she goes, here's what we're going to do. We're going to drive every 3 days. Okay. We're going to drive every 3 days, and we're going to go about 6 hours per drive. And we're going to go see 6 different monuments over the next 7 days. And we are going to have one outdoor and indoor activity. And I've already marked all of the places that we get to go, where we're going to stay and everything. Here's the vision. This is what we're doing. And what we're going to do is we're going to show our kids several things. It's going to be educational. It's going to be relaxing at times. It's going to be um, challenging. And it's going to be something that they will remember. Well, now I'm there. Like I see it. Okay. I can buy into this. I can get behind this. So that vision driven strategist sees beyond the day to day, builds towards a long term mission, aligns excellence with sustainability, makes decisions based on both data and intuition, balancing heart and head. Whenever we are trying to change something, you must have a vision and there must be a strategy connected to it. And I'll give another example. I have an employee, and basically what I said is, I have this idea. She said, okay. I said, what if you didn't do what you do every day? She's like, what? I'm like, what if we replaced everything that you currently do on someone else? What do you think she did at first? She freaked out. She's like, I like what I do. You hired me. Like, are you trying to fire me? What's going on? I go, no, I got this vision. I believe you've got greatness that is not currently being tapped into. And she's like, oh, stop it. Stop it. And I go, no, I see it. I said, every day you do great things, but I feel there's greatness that I'm not tapping into. And she goes, I'm listening. And I go, what if I was to unload your whole role? You manage the person that takes on that role. And I brought in 5 new things you could learn, and I could increase your earning potential by 30%. She's like, amazing. I love it. Like new things. What do I get to learn? What do I get to do? I get to make more. I get to create more, and I'm still connected. Brandon, that sounds amazing. I'm able to create change when I have a vision driven strategy that does not put others into fight or flight, but showcases opportunity that will ultimately benefit. Now, in that vision, I may bring up it's going to feel like garbage at first. And literally, I just reached out to her and she's like, I'm doing this, but I have to tell you, the last 4 weeks have been hell. And I go, it will get better. There is a light at the end of the tunnel. Just trust me. She's like, okay, I trust you. So within this vision driven strategist, we've got some core behaviors. One of the core behaviors is to set measurable goals tied to outcomes and financial health. So, what are we trying to achieve? Why are we trying to achieve it? And how does it align financially? We need to anticipate market shifts and we need to adapt proactively. This is crucial. The market's changing. So, even this concept of one of the things that I will bring up with clinicians sometimes is, hey, your treatment approach might look different. And they freak out. What do you mean? Blah, blah, blah. I'm going to be changing some things. It's really important. I go, hey, here are the measurable goals. This is how the patient is going to benefit from it. This is where the market shift is driving. Find me a clinic that has not already implemented this. And by doing this, we're going to build a scalable solution so that we can optimize the trajectory of the way we deliver care. And I build that out. It's not reactive. We're laying foundation. We're laying fundamentals. We're creating a playground in which they know they can be successful. So the next essential thing in our leadership, we must have people-centric culture builders. Must. So in that people-centric culture builder, you must understand that the team is the engine. The culture is the fuel. I'm going to say that again. The team is the engine. We can't go anywhere without it. But the culture is the fuel. It continues to push your engine. So the next thing I'm about to say, it's really critical that you put everything into context, okay? So when we are wearing our people-centric culture builder role, we want to lead with empathy. We want to identify and be clear. We want to have clarity, but we must have accountability. So I want to give you an example. Let's just say, for the sake of this example, we've got a physician, and the physician is highly empathetic and has a nurse that comes up and says, "Hey, um, my son is graduating at the end of the week, and I would like to take off from this afternoon till the end of the week." And for the sake of this example, let's say you have a policy that says you must have a week's notice in order to do it. Um, I need my leader to put in accountability. So, hey, I'm so happy to hear that your son is graduating. And of course, I don't want you to miss any aspect of this, but policies are in place so that we provide consistency and we are dealing with lives here and people. We have a responsibility. So, the only way that we are going to be able to alter the way that our policy functions in our practice is if you come up with a solution where you have a replacement, you have the training done, you have all the resources, and you find that piece. And so there's a bending, not breaking component, but we have to be careful of this because then we need to change our policy. So be careful. So empathy does not mean that you have to give in. Empathy means that you acknowledge and validate the feelings. I totally respect that. And I wish we had more notice. I wish that we could. So I'm so sorry. We won't be able to accommodate this week, but I'm happy to do a makeup. Maybe you want to take 2 weeks from now off or whatever. The other thing we need to do is we need to create a workplace where our clinicians, physicians, and staff feel seen, heard, and valued. So hear you, feel you, whatever. But the mistake that often leaders make is they only focus on validating and they're afraid to push to accountability. Recognize that I said accountability is important. Clarity and accountability are very important. And so our core behaviors on this, we need to model core values in daily interactions. So if a core value is timeliness, you better be on time every day. You better be early. We need to invest in leadership development and mentorship. We need to bring people up. We need to rise the tide, so to speak. So if you know the saying, a rising tide floats all boats. And then we need to use feedback loops. And I use this a lot about stay interviews, pulse surveys. We need to guide our engagement. Part of our leadership is that idea that we are just connecting and touching and feeling, etc. And so that is really important to this process. The next thing I want you to think about from our leadership standpoint is our leadership roles, our practice leaders need to be able to architect the way we function. Architecting the way we function. How do we operate? And so don't just delegate, design structure, make delegation effective, you know, Really focus in on workflow, ratio, resource allocation. I want you to be nuts, bolts, architect, engineering every single thing that is done. I'm so tired of people thinking that because you can clinically treat, you have the capability to architect and engineer the function of a business. We need to be able to do that. That is critical. And so, knowing policies and procedures, identifying they're not bureaucracy, identifying the way that your practice functions, and how you can create consistency in every day. The biggest drawback that I see today is that we let empathy drive inconsistency. I want to say that again. Empathy drive inconsistency. One of the ways I see it is every time a person complains, you waive their cancellation fee. Oh, that's not fair. I know I signed the policy, but it was hard to get out the door. I didn't sleep the night before. I'm breastfeeding. My mother-in-law's at my house. There's a lot going on. Stop letting them give up responsibility. Own the room. If they respect you, then you can lead. It is when they don't respect you that leadership can't occur. And I say it this way, I am willing to lose clients in order to hold my policies and procedures, to hold my grounds. If I want there to be bend and flex, then I must write that in the policies and procedures. Our core values and behaviors, as we look at the behaviors of our operational architect, I need someone that can build standard operating procedures, empowering autonomy, tracking KPIs across clinical, financial, and HR domains. I need to optimize every aspect equationally of my practice. And here's the most important thing. I need to treat my business like a business, and I need to treat people like people, and I need to treat the goal as an outcome and a purpose, but not an operating basis. So, the other thing that is crucial is we must embrace being an adaptive decision maker, thriving in the ability to lead through change. Understanding change is part of the process. Adapt, pivot, and roll. I come in and oh my gosh, we've got a water leak in room 5. Okay, we're going to adapt, pivot, and go. We need to balance risk with resilience. We need to make timely decisions with imperfect information. Sometimes we just got to lock, load, and go. And in this, our core behaviors, we need to use scenario planning, contingency mapping. We need to embrace innovation, whether it's tech, staffing models, service lines. Hey, Brandon, our receptionist quit. We're out of a receptionist. Okay, we're going to bring in a third party answering service. We're going to implement text communication. We're going to implement a different way for patients to reach us. Whatever that is, learn fast, pivot faster. Really critical. Number 5, this is crucial. This is, in my opinion, what has helped me the most as a private practice leader. You must be a purpose fueled communicator. Everything has intention, everything has purpose. There is a why to what we are doing, and there is an intention to do right in alignment with the purpose of this organization. So I need you to inspire through storytelling. I need you to take numbers and bring it to life. So, one of the things that often people don't recognize is I use numbers, but I make numbers interesting. Hey, Jamie, did you know that 9 out of 10 appointments yesterday showed up? 9 out of 10. You know what that tells me? 9 out of 10 people were beyond excited to see you. And the one They were sick. Okay, let's get it. Let's get it right. Okay, that one. Guess what? Unfortunately, they're only coming to 50% of their appointments, Jamie. Now, let me ask you something. If tomorrow you wanted to learn a new skill, but you only came to 5 out of 10 classes, do you think you would master that skill? No. So, how do we get your patient Jason to recognize that we want him to master his progress, his goals, his milestones? If I were to ask him, what are 5 things that he would give up $1,000 for related to his care? Do you think he'd come up with something? How do we allow him to value what it is he's coming in for? How do we educate? How do we empower? How do we understand? And I think one of the things as a purpose field communicator is our role impacted in creating change in what we want to see and do every day if someone doesn't buy in? Yes. So what if we required buy-in? What if we said that only 1 out of 10,000 clients deserve us? What if we became the commodity? How would that change? What if every single patient said that you made their life better? Would that change the way you do? Yeah. So let's raise the bar. Let's go after patients that think you're worth $1 million. Let's go after patients that want to name their firstborn child after you. You can see the purpose field communicator, right? Now that's exaggeration, but I'm trying to show the way that we take simple facts, data, opportunities, and kick it into a storyline where our vision rallies our team. It earns trust. Now, with this, it's crucial that we know when to listen, when to coach, and when to challenge. So I always ask, can I challenge you? Are you in a place where I can challenge you today? You know what, Brandon? Honestly, I'm not in a place to be challenged. No worries. How about this? You come get me. When you're up for a challenge, let's talk. So, in this, our core behaviors, we want to host regular team huddles, one-to-ones. We want to share wins and failures transparently. We want to build alignment across both clinical and business priorities. So here are some additional key attributes that I want you to kind of lock into. One, emotional intelligence. Most experts agree that emotional intelligence is as, if not more important than cognitive IQ when it comes to determining an outstanding job performance. EQ is so important. It's so funny because my kids, the one area I'm really working on is read the room. And I say it all the time. I'm like, Sophia, read the room. She goes, Dad, I'm reading the room. What am I reading? She's like, oh my gosh, I don't see letters. I'm like, no, what's going on? What's the emotion? Where are we at? Do you see others loud? Do you see them soft? Do you see them hunched over? What's their body language? When I put my head like this, does that mean that I want you to sing in my ear, the sun will come out tomorrow? No, read the room. So here are some key components I want you to know about when it comes to emotional intelligence. We must be self aware and we must have emotion management. We must have empathy in our interactions. We must be able to align team emotional support, but understanding the way that people align. Did you know not everyone's a hugger? Not everyone wants a high five. Not everyone wants loud noise. Not everyone wants soft noise. Understanding how our communication can align with others, time, place, space, the whole bit. I'll never forget a family member of mine sent this email to the entire family. And it was during the election year. And It had a political stance that, regardless of what you believe in, could be offensive. And it was right after the election. And again, I have family members on all party sides. And one of my family members who got this email was like, Brandon, did you see that email? I'm like, yeah. And they're like, should I be pissed off? And I'm like, no. And they're like, why? I'm like, because the person sending it had no EQ. It wasn't intentional. It was not designed to hurt. You just got to it's not worth the emotional output. They didn't recognize that that email was not only inappropriate, but could make someone feel worse. That's one of the things that we don't recognize. Our viewpoints have impact. And although, like, I'm all about free speech, but free speech also means that not everyone has to listen to your speech. And so understanding how to read the room, understanding who your audience is, understanding the way and the role that you interact is going to be a game changer in our leadership. So I'm going to say it this way. I have an employee that just missed her bonus. And let's say the bonus was $10,000. And then I go and I say, hey, Tina, I'm taking a bunch of people out to see my brand new Mercedes. I don't drive a Mercedes, but for the sake of this analogy, would that be appropriate? Would it be appropriate to go to my team and be like, come check out my new car after they didn't hit their bonus? I don't think that's appropriate. And it's interesting because I've had practice owners reach out to me and they say, hey, Brandon, for the last 4 years, I've been making no money and I'm finally bringing it in and I want to get a new car. But I'm really afraid of what that will tell my team because, in full transparency, they're going to all ask for raises if they see me driving some fancy car. Like we're moving up with the Joneses. And so part of that is understanding what's appropriate, what's not. Now, you can do what you want to do. So there are people that don't care. They're like, I don't care. I worked hard. I deserve this. They want to see my Land Rover. Come see my Land Rover. That's why I'm the one who worked for the last 4 years putting 80-hour weeks in. But that's not the message I personally would choose to send. So there's 4 emotional intelligence abilities. 1, the ability to identify emotions in self and others. 2, using emotions to reason. 3, understanding emotions. And 4, managing them. You got it. And so we need to make sure we're also, as healthcare leaders, we embrace adaptability and innovation. How are we ready to adapt? How are we ready to rapidly go into new circumstances that arise? What are the strategic actions that we're taking? We need to master the quick pivot. We need to embrace advancement in technology. Something that I am a big believer in that's helped me as well is servant leadership mindset. So servant leadership mindset in healthcare can be described as serving others, encouraging creativity, promoting learning, sharing power, and helping employees reach goals. And when I align servant leadership mindset, I actually connect it very transparently with the top of Maslow's hierarchy, self-actualization. The highest part of Maslow's pyramid, self-actualization. So when we're looking at servant leadership mindset, I want you to focus on team development. I want you to share decision-making power. I want you to create psychological safety, and I want you to foster community and team growth. It's really important that we communicate excellence. Active listening means giving our full attention to a speaker, using verbal and nonverbal affirmations. We must be transparent, clear communication, stakeholder management in which we know the right time and place to bring things up, and regular feedback. And so I'm a big believer. So it's so funny. I use, and I'm sure I've shared this before, but I love the book Harold and his purple crayon. And one of the things I like to do on a leadership side is to give the purple crayon to others. Draw what this policy should look like. Draw what our productivity expectations should look like. Draw what you want your pay to look like. Let's look at all that. Can we make it come to life? Can we bring it from paper to reality? And those are ways that we get people to create at the prefrontal cortex where they're literally co-creating with you. And so one of the questions that we often ask, are leaders born or built? This is the age-old debate, nature versus nurture. It applies to leadership just as much as it does to talent, intelligence, and creativity. And the most compelling answer backed by research and real-world observation is leaders are built. That's not to say that some people don't have a head start. Traits like charisma, confidence, decisiveness can be influenced by genetics. But leadership is far more than personality. It's a skill set, it's a mindset, it's a set of behaviors that are shaped through experience, reflection, and intentional development. So, nature studies suggest that 30% of leadership traits may be inherited, such as extroversion, assertiveness. Some individuals may naturally gravitate towards leadership roles due to early temperament or social competence. But alone, you can't just have a leader. You must build it. You must build the skill set. You must. So I believe it's a combination. I believe you have to have some natural capability and desire, but I do believe the best leaders are built. And so as we forge ahead, the Center of Creative Leadership emphasizes that leadership is learned through challenging experiences, mentorship, and training. The 70-20-10 rule is often cited. 70% of leadership development comes from on the job challenges, 20% from relationships, and 10% from formal education. Traits like EQ, emotional intelligence, strategic thinking, resilience are cultivated over time, not inherited. And so, again, the hybrid truth, most experts agree great leaders are made by developing their natural potential through deliberate practice, feedback, and growth environments. Think of leadership like a muscle. Some may be born with strength, but everyone can train to become stronger. And so we must upskill our leaders. We must build strategic fluency, shift from tactical to strategic thinking, train in financial literacy, use scenario planning. We must strengthen the way that our leaders communicate, invest in storytelling skills, practice feedback loops, and develop executive presence. And then we must master our people strategy, train in talent development, help leaders identify high potential team members, build internal leadership pipelines, understand workforce analytics, and build a culture of accountability. We must, though, be able to embrace operational excellence. We must teach systems thinking, use KPIs to drive decisions, encourage delegation mastery. And of course, we want to foster that emotional intelligence, helping identify self awareness through training, empathy and resilience, and mindfulness. And the last is we have to create a personalized growth plan. Use 360-degree feedback or leadership assessments to identify development areas. Set quarterly learning goals. Pair with a coach or peer advisor group for accountability and perspective. And so, did you know that 71% of small business leaders who set clear long-term goals for their teams reported 18% higher revenue growth compared to those without defined visions? That was from the Chamber of Commerce through one of their studies in 2024. And in the great words inspired by Simon Sinek, the DNA of a great leader is woven with vision, resilience, and empathy. Ignite these traits to guide your team to extraordinary success. Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of the Private Practice Survival Guide podcast. Don't forget, Like us, subscribe, follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and everything where you are. And of course, reach out to me because together we can thrive, not just survive. Thank you for tuning in to the Private Practice Survival Guide podcast. I'm incredibly grateful to each and every one of you. Exciting news. We're now available everywhere, from Spotify to Apple Podcasts to YouTube or anywhere you like to listen to your podcasts. So watch, listen, and reach out. If you love this episode, please drop a 5-star review. It truly means the world to me. Are you looking for more ways to elevate your practice? If so, now is your chance. Reach out, go to my website, or email me at brandon@wellnessworksmp.com. And remember, it's not just about surviving, it's about thriving.